And what I will first do is read the statement from Vanita Gupta before I talk to you with my statement. Vanita is, of course, the head of the Civil Rights Division for the Department of Justice. Her statement: I am sorry that I cannot stand in person today with these leaders, President Engstrom, Mayor Ingen, and Chief Ludeman, in making this announcement, but my schedule did not allow it, and I did not want to delay announcement of this good news in celebrating the significant accomplishments of the University of Montana Police Department, and the Missoula County. Our agreement with the University of Montana Police Department following our investigation into the handling of sexual assault complaints made by women in Missoula has been a catalyst for powerful changes in the law enforcement, the university, and community's coordinated response to sexual assault. We are grateful for the efforts of the University of Montana, the UMPD, and the entire Missoula community, because as a result of these reforms, the women of Missoula are safer, more trusting of the criminal justice system, and subject to a more fair and respectful treatment by campus police. The University of Montana and the UMPD had the courage and the leadership to acknowledge and address these problems on its campus. And as a result, they are poised to become a model for institutions of higher education and campus police departments grappling with these issues around the country. UMPD's achievements today is noteworthy for many reasons. The UMPD's successful implementation of this agreement in just 2 years shows that reform can happen when government, police, and community leaders do the difficult work together to create change. Today, Missoula law enforcement, the university, and the community as a whole are stronger as a result of the University of Montana Police Department's efforts. And we know that the UMPD is committed to continuing to improve and evolve, as every law enforcement agency should, to sustaining the reforms that they have achieved and to continue to work with their law enforcement and community partners to improve their responses to sexual assault. The common factor critical to all of the progress that we have seen across the different agencies and agreements is the meaningful engagement of the community, providing input at every stage of our work, during the investigation, the development of the agreement, and now the implementation of the agreement. Under all the agreements, the entities involved agreed to establish sustainable mechanisms that allow for input from key stakeholders about their practices and procedures. For example, an important and novel element of the UMPD's implementation of this agreement was the creation of UMPD and UMPD's cooperation with a variety of external methods for evaluating the police department's response to reports of sexual assault, from the development of the external review panel to the completion of community-conducted sexual assault response safety and accountability audit, and the creation and implementation of a survey to get input from sexual assault victims about their experiences with reporting to Missoula law enforcement. UMPD's cooperation with these processes have been essential. These efforts go hand in hand with the university's second agreement with the Department of Justice and the United States Department of Education. Pursuant to that agreement, the university agreed to conduct an annual assessment of the effectiveness of its reforms and to consider any recommendations from community members, parents, and law enforcement upon sharing information gathered for the annual assessment of such stakeholders. The input of the University of Montana PD and the university have received through these channels is invaluable and stands as a testament to the credit due to the entire Missoula community for supporting and effectuating the reforms we are applauding today. I look forward to joining all of you in the coming months as we celebrate additional milestones in these agreements and the continued progress of the Missoula community. That concludes Vanita's Gupta's comments. Rape is a horribly violent crime that has immediate and devastating consequences for the victims and their loved ones. 1 year ago, At the White House Task Force Protecting Students from Sexual Assault, then Deputy Attorney General James Cole said, "The majority of rapes are committed by a small number of perpetrators. Communities struggle to investigate and adjudicate these crimes. Sexual assaults of college students are incredibly underreported. Only 2% of college students who suffer sexual assault while incapacitated and 13% of other college students who are rape survivors report the crime." The broad set of fundamental reforms that has been implemented over the last 3 years has dramatically improved the ability of the University of Montana and Missoula more broadly to protect victims of sexual assault. These long-lasting reforms provide for accountability, transparency, and credibility. The reforms call for an integrated response to sexual assault. The collaborative response of the university and the city police departments has become the model for all towns and colleges. A model that should be copied. And thank you, President Engstrom, for the extraordinary leadership that you have shown during the last few years and for ensuring the right thing has been done for the students at the University of Montana. When the University of Montana and Missoula came face to face with the formidable challenge of addressing the sexual assaults in the community, President Engstrom, you and Mayor Engen, together with your respective staffs, engineered a complete overhaul of the processes and procedures employed by the Missoula law enforcement community in the handling of reports of sexual assault, the investigation of sexual assault allegations, and the referral of meritorious cases to the prosecutor's office for consideration and prosecution. Throughout, you were informed by the people of Missoula and the victims of sexual assault. The changes that have been made are substantial and sustainable. Where once there were gaps, they now have been closed. The University of Montana has made many, many changes, but I will only mention a handful of them. But these things are now, these items are now in place. There is an SOP where it didn't exist before. Sexual assault investigation policy is a consistent response methodology in investigation of sexual assault. A memorandum of understanding which was revised in October of 2013, linking Missoula Police Department, the Missoula County Sheriff's Office with the University of Montana Police Department. Law enforcement training that is trauma-informed and victim-centered investigations. And importantly, community engagement and feedback. Moreover, we are gratified to note that over the last 2 years, the University of Montana has consistently exceeded the requirements of the agreement in many areas. Thank you, President Ingram and your staff, the University of Montana Police Chief Marty Ludeman, and University of Montana Legal Counsel Lucy France. We are also encouraged by the progress that has been made by the Missoula County Attorney's Office under the leadership of County Attorney Kirsten Pabst. Since taking office 6 months ago, she has created a special sexual assault unit of 4 prosecutors and a supervisor, and hired an in-house victim coordinator to work with victims, advocates, and law enforcement. There are many additional things that County Attorney Pabst has done in this short time. I want to thank the community and the advocacy groups who participated in bringing about these substantive changes. Also, I want to thank all the courageous survivors of sexual assault who spoke out to ensure that sexual assault victims can now have confidence that law enforcement response is victim-centered, they will be heard, and not stereotyped. Today is the day to celebrate the University of Montana and the City of Missoula. Today, thanks to President Engstrom and his staff at the University of Montana, the U is a far safer community where students are welcomed, nurtured, educated, and protected, and where they can thrive with confidence that their university does have their back. Well done, and congratulations, President Engstrom.
Thanks very much. Good morning. Thank you for coming out this morning to help us with this statement and with this important day. It's great to see so many people from the campus itself, but the media and members of our community, members of the city, including some of our officers. Thank you all for being here. I want to make a special thank you to Attorney General Tim Fox for coming by this morning. I appreciate that. Thank you, U.S. Attorney Cotter, for being here today and for sharing Assistant Attorney General Gupta's letter with us here this morning. I spoke with Vanita Gupta on the phone today already, and she was sorry that she couldn't be here in person, and she wanted to express her deep thanks and appreciation for the work that we have done here. I very much appreciate her personal involvement and that of her predecessor. Mike, thank you for not just for your remarks this morning, but for your confidence as we've addressed this matter over these last few years and the professional manner in which you've interacted with us. I very much appreciate that. Mayor Ingen, you and I have been in front of the microphone numerous times to talk about the issue of sexual assault and about building community trust and safety. Your hard work and your personal commitment to this issue mean a great deal to me and to our community. Chief Ludeman, Marty, thank you for being here for today and for the extremely professional manner in which you operate our law enforcement here at the University of Montana, the UMPD. We're very proud of that organization. Today marks an important accomplishment for our campus and indeed for the entire Missoula community. Most importantly, however, today signifies a dramatically heightened level of attention to the prevention of sexual assault on our campus and for working with those people affected one way or another by sexual assault. More than ever, we are committed as a campus to listening to victims, learning from their experiences, and we're committed to the effective process in the adjudication of assault cases. Just over 2 years ago, the university entered into 2 agreements with the U.S. Departments of Justice and Education, as Mr. Cotter indicated, with the determination that we would improve our handling of sexual assault on this campus. Today, we conclude the successful full implementation of our agreement with the Department of Justice regarding the UM Police Department. Our additional agreement with Justice and the Department of Education regarding Title IX has a longer time frame for completion, and that work continues as we speak. Both of these agreements focus heavily on education and training of our students, our employees, our police officers. In addition, we've revised policies and procedures. We've adjusted staffing levels in key areas of campus. We've improved our confidential care system. We've made reporting methods more clear. We've clarified the campus adjudication process, and we are analyzing our results in a constant feedback mode. For these last several years, I've emphasized 3 goals for the University of Montana regarding sexual assault. 1, to care for survivors of sexual assault. 2, to use due process to remove proven offenders from our campus. And 3, to prevent sexual assault from happening in the first place. Those goals will not change. The conclusion of this agreement today doesn't mean we are finished. Instead, UM and our Missoula partners have in place a sustainable and effective model for addressing all aspects of sexual assault. And we'll continue our work together to implement the practices that we've established through this agreement. Regarding today's agreement, many people on campus and across Missoula have worked countless hours to improve our collective response to reports of sexual assault. I extend my thanks and appreciation to all of them, many of whom are in this room today. In particular, I do want to acknowledge the university's entire police department for accepting difficult conclusions from the Department of Justice and then moving ahead to make changes, always with an eye on how we can better help our student community. I won't name everybody in our police department, obviously, but I certainly want to thank Chief Marty Ludeman, who will make some comments in just a moment here, for his leadership in this area, and Captain Ben Gladwin, who can't be with us today, for his tireless work and his inspiring leadership on this issue and tackling these difficult questions. I also want to note the university's legal counsel, Lucy France, who has been our key contact with the federal government on this agreement, working essentially day to day on these issues for the last several years. Lucy has become nationally recognized in higher education circles for her expertise, and I appreciate her ability to work well on all sides of an issue that can be so emotionally charged, and an issue that is so critical for higher education to address proactively and productively. I continue to say, and I firmly believe, that the University of Montana and the City of Missoula have one of the strongest community-university partnerships anywhere in the country. We have residents who are engaged, dedicated, and committed to making our home here as safe and inspiring and fulfilling as possible. We have a community of people willing to tackle the toughest of issues, and we have a community ready to take the steps in addressing all of those tough issues, including sexual assault. It's a pleasure to see you all here today. Thank you for coming out as we mark this major milestone at the University of Montana. Thank you.
Good morning. I would just like to echo what has been said earlier today. I'm very proud of our University Police Department and our university. I think we stepped up and really came through in a very crucial and important effort in where we're trying to go as a university and a police department. U.S. Attorney Cotter, I really appreciate the comments that you made. And President Engstrom, I just cannot tell you how much your leadership and support of our police department has allowed us to move forward in this area. If we didn't have that type of commitment from my leaders or our leaders, that we wouldn't be able to accomplish what we've been able to accomplish, and I thank you for that. I think I'd like to take just a minute to thank and recognize some real important key parts to why we're standing here today, and that's our community partners. And I'll just name a few because I think it's very important. Our first step with St. Pat's Hospital was instrumental in trainings. The YWCA standing shoulder to shoulder with us in trainings and teaching us what it is like to be a victim. And not personally, but the experience that victims go through when they sit down and talk with a police officer. It was just important that we understood that. And we had crime victim advocacy, the crime victim advocates from downtown. We had the Just Response multidisciplinary team standing shoulder to shoulder with us through this whole process. And I'm just very proud of that and our involvement with that. We have campus partners in this as well. We have the Office of Campus Assault Coordinator. She is very instrumental in putting together trainings for our students and our staff. We have the UCSA, which is the University Council of Student Assault, that is a guiding force for not only the police department but our campus in these areas of concern for us. They track that for us and help us reason through good solutions in how we move forward. Resident life, I think, is the backbone of student awareness and teaching on these hard issues. Their staff works tirelessly, and we've been more involved in that atmosphere as police officers because we feel that we are part of that. We need to be part of that education piece. Title IX, we work very closely together. Jessica, your office and our office, it's just a wonderful relationship, and I thank you for that. SART, which is our student advocacy group, it was put together trainings for our police department that particularly talk to our issues on our campus. We're unique with the police department as it comes to policing on a campus. It's quite a bit different than policing in a community, and that was just totally helpful. And then the Curry Health Center and their staff. I'm just very proud of the team concept and effort that we move forward every day on this university with. And we take care of our students, from faculty to staff to all of this group. We honestly care about our students and how we move forward, and that's a great thing to be part of. I would just like to point out a couple things. President Engstrom talked about Captain Ben Gladwin, and his efforts in this area were huge. He's been here from the beginning and worked very well. Detective Chris Croft was the author of our policies and procedures, which was a very, very well put together document. We've been asked by a lot of universities throughout the country, what are you doing? What is your policy, and what did you train to? So we have always extended that to all of these universities throughout the country. Anybody that asks, we're willing to share it because we're very proud of our work product. And we have Officer Shannon Parson. Shannon was in charge of putting together all of our trainings, collaborating with all of our partners, making sure that we got our officers in the rooms with those trainings and came face to face and learned about this and heightened our awareness in this area. And last but not least is Rosalind Haley. Rosalind is working for the police department and for the Title IX office in a dual role. And what she does is she collects data and analyzes that information for us and makes sure that we take care of students when it comes to resources. And it's just, we put that together about 6-8 months ago, and I think that was probably one of our best ideas moving forward in this whole process. So I'm very proud of that. So to start with, the University Police entered this agreement in, I believe it was May of 2013. And the starting point of that was building that policy and SOP and procedures, and to train to that. And we got guidance from our independent reviewer, Tom Tremblay, and Jennifer Mondino from the Department of Justice. And we worked together to create this document and move forward with it. We got their approval, and so we started training. Our officers accumulated about 1,000 hours of training just in sexual assault investigations. That averaged about 79 hours per officer. And that was our requirement. But what we did is we went beyond that, because we knew as a university the potential of victims' first contact could be with our civilian staff. That's how we operate. So what we did is we extended that training to our civilian staff. We weren't asked to do that with the agreement. We just felt it was the right thing to do. So our civilian staff received 100 hours of training in the area of sexual assault. Just on the off chance that they may be that first point of contact, we felt they needed to understand where our police department wants to go with these issues. So now I'll go into a little bit of what I prepared here. That was just off. That's just. I think sexual assault response training has been instrumental in guiding our officers in a consistent professional manner. The University of Police, again, has completed the 100 hours, or the 1,000 hours in 100 hours. But what we do have in place is a 2-year sustainability plan. And in that 2-year sustainability plan, it talks to how we review our policies and procedures. Do we need to change them? Is there some issue that has come up through this process that we need to change or tweak a little bit? And we'll do that through trainings. We'll do that with our community partners. The feedback that we get from them on how we do our job is instrumental in how we evaluate ourselves. And I think it's just a great model. We'll continue victim-centered investigations while focusing on suspect accountability will remain a cornerstone of our philosophy on sexual assaults for the University Police Department. We'll continue to use victim-centered practices in response to sexual assaults. UMPT's culture and collective consciousness has improved substantially in the area of sexual assault. There are now new, improved lines of communication with our community partners, campus partners, and students in the areas of awareness, trainings, and policies. The UMPT has formalized and institutionalized policies and procedures to the response to sexual assault now and in the future. What that means is that we put into place our policies and procedures in an institution so that when it's time for a leadership change on this police department, that we can move forward seamlessly and not lose the direction that we're going in, no matter who's standing here as the chief of police. And I think that's very important. Campus safety and education about prevention of sexual assault and improving response to sexual assault will continue to be a top priority of the University of Montana. I want to talk a little bit about university policing. We are a police department on a campus. We have responsibilities like any other police department with criminal investigations and activities. But what we're also asked to do is to create a safe learning environment for our students and a safe working environment for our staff and faculty. And we take that very seriously. But I think what this agreement has taught us is that we can't do that by ourselves. That collaboration and partnerships are the key in being strong and moving forward. We're trying to build a culture of safety on our campus. But the University Police can't do that alone. The campus community, this is a campus community undertaking in a partnership with all of our campus partners, and we will succeed and make a difference. Excuse me. We will, as a team, talk, teach, and educate our students in all areas of safety as it pertains to campus. I think with this collaborative effort, I can truly say today that I think our campus is safer than it was yesterday and will be safer and stronger tomorrow. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, President Engstrom, for the opportunity to be here. Marty, I think, had 15 minutes, so that gives me 20-ish, something like that. And I have a PowerPoint as well, so I won't subject any of you to that. So there are a couple of emergent themes for me this morning. First is Assistant Attorney General Gupta, in her letter, used the term courage, and courage plays out in a number of ways today. First, if you are a victim of sexual assault and you tell another living soul about that assault, that is a remarkable act of courage. And if you extend that act of courage beyond someone you know, someone you trust, someone who cares about, someone who loves you, that is remarkable. And to do that to a stranger in a position of authority, a stranger who is in a position to expose that very painful, intimate event of violence in your life to others, is remarkable. And those acts of courage, those victims who choose to report, should be rewarded. That courage should be rewarded. And because of the courage of the men and women of this community who are gathered within this room and outside of this room, who have acknowledged our weaknesses, our flaws, our errors, our past, and have also embraced our capacity to grow and to change and to learn and to get better. Because of that, we are rewarding the courage of those victims, and because of that, we're moving forward. And I would like to specifically offer my appreciation for the courage of President Royce Engstrom today. And I will tell you, over the course of his presidency, he has had lots of opportunity to duck and cover. And he has not done that. And I am very proud to stand here at the University of Montana with a partner who has made it easy to work on executing these agreements, because I tell you, without somebody like Royce in leadership at the University of Montana and his team, these are words on paper. These are words on paper. Without the men and women of the Missoula Police Department, without the women and men of the University of Montana Police Department, without the staff of the Crime Victim Advocate's Office, without the women and men of the University of Montana Police Department, without all of the folks who are busy making sure that victims are taken care of. These are words on paper, and this stuff doesn't work in every community. These agreements would fail in other communities, but for the hard work and leadership that people here have shown. So thank you, Royce, for those efforts, and thank you all for those efforts. It takes courage, and I admire that courage. That courage leads me to do the right thing, and we all need that. And thank you, Mike, for being here. Thank you for leading us in the right direction and providing the support that we need as well. Some of these pills are hard to swallow, but once you take them, you find that there's a cure somewhere in there, and the symptoms start to go away, and you start to feel better, and you start to do better, and you start to take care of business, and that's very important. Second emergent theme is what's next. There is nothing here that happens without sincerity. Again, these would be words on paper, but for the fact that everyone here is committed. No one on our team at the City of Missoula and no one here at the University of Montana has ever said to me in private, in quiet, when it's okay to say what you really think. Let's just get through this. Let's just get through this thing. No one's ever said that. They've said, let's do this. Let's get better. Let's take care of business. Let's take care of the people we serve. That's what these agreements do. They're not just words. They live in our community. And they'll go on living in our community because of the commitment that you've seen at the University of Montana, that you've seen at the City of Missoula, and that you see alive and well in our community. So if you're a victim today, I hope that you can come forward with the confidence that you'll be cared for. And ultimately, what I hope we can do is figure out a way to build a world, to build a community where people are cared for from the day they take their first breath in this world in a way that doesn't lead them down a path to commit the kind of violence that's committed in our world, that leads them to a place where they feel they have to harm someone else. If we can live in that world, a lot of the rest of this goes away. But until then, we take care of people in Missoula, and we can help other places learn how to take care of their people as well. So thank you all. Pleasure to see you on a beautiful day in Missoula, Montana.
Well, we can, we can spend 10 or 15 minutes for a question and answer from the press. Yes.
I have a question for presentation.
Certainly.
You talked about a sustainable and effective model moving forward. Can you be more specific about what that model is moving forward?
Sure. I think that the effective and sustainable model moving forward includes many of the components that you heard spoken about today. Nothing is sustainable without a fundamental education underneath it, and that's what we do at the University of Montana and in higher education. So the educational components of what we've done here, I think, are absolutely the fundamental underpinning of a sustainable approach to working with victims of sexual assault and handling the issues around sexual assault. Those educational processes are in place, and they're in place to stay. So our students, every new student that comes to this campus undergoes an educational process. Every new employee that comes to this campus undergoes an educational process as well, and that process will remain in place forever. The staffing changes that we have made are permanent and sustainable. We have staffed up in the police department. We've staffed up in SARC and some of our other support offices, and those are base changes, and those will help us make sure that we implement effectively in an ongoing way. The policy changes and the practice changes that you heard spoken about, again, are permanent changes, and they have put in place the framework, the structure, through which we can take on any case that comes our way. And so those are permanent and lasting changes in the approach. I think the most important aspect, though, that gives permanence and sustainability to this effort is the dramatically higher level of conversation and visibility about the issue of sexual assault on this campus. This is a topic on everyone's mind. We know that it gets to the core of who we are, and so that conversation, that discussion won't go away. It will be an ongoing conversation.
Dr. Ekstrom,
Peter?
let's say 8 years ago, a woman has been sexually assaulted on the University of Montana campus. What is the fundamental difference between 8 years ago, her coming forward, and today, and coming forward today? What would you say are the biggest differences that she and her family and her support system would find on this campus?
Peter, I think fundamentally the difference is a much more knowledgeable, much more caring environment, set of people. That's at its core. I think that's what is different. The details of that manifest in a variety of ways. Our reporting processes now are so much clearer than they were before. There admittedly was confusion in terms of how does a woman report, how does a woman get confidential care, what's the difference between the two. I believe that we have worked very hard to clarify that, so now a victim of sexual assault knows how to report and knows that there is going to be a response. Our deepest hope from all of this, Peter, is that we have 100% reporting of sexual assault incidents, and combined with a decrease in the actual incidents of sexual assault. I think, though, that the structure that we have put in place here at the university, what has been put in place at the city and in the county attorney's office, our deepest hope is that that gives confidence to victims of sexual assault, that they will be listened to and they will be cared for, and there will be consequences of committing sexual assault.
Yes.
Why were these kinds of policies and partnerships in place prior to 2015?
You know, that is a great question, I think, rooted in the way societies evolve in general. Oftentimes you don't have the things in place you need until you have been confronted with a real challenge in those areas. And that, in our case, we're talking about sexual assault, but you can think of being challenged in any one of many areas that we all deal with on a day-to-day basis. Until you're confronted with a real crisis, with a real challenge, you don't necessarily know what you need to have in place, and you don't know what's missing from your portfolio of tools to address that particular topic. I think it's the way communities evolve. They get better, and it would be great if we could anticipate every challenge that we're going to be confronted with in the next 10 years, but none of us can do that. And so sometimes it takes some unfortunate events, maybe even a crisis situation, to give us all the wake-up call we need that this is a serious issue. This isn't happening just in Missoula. It's not like Missoula and the university have just come to this realization. This is happening all over the country, not only in higher education, in the military, in our communities in general. The topic of sexual assault has risen in visibility dramatically over these past few years. All of us in this country are taking increased steps, more effective measures to address this problem that has become on our radar screen in a way that it wasn't 2 years ago.
How is going through this whole process? How could this possibly help maybe another problem of a different, matter, different crime? Maybe how can going through this maybe help in the future alleviate some of those concerns?
That's a very interesting question, and one, I'll give you a fairly specific example here at the university. As we began the process of addressing issues around sexual assault, we also started to think more deeply about emergency preparedness in a broader sense. And so we have spent time rewriting our emergency operations plan. I and many others on the staff have been participating in emergency training kinds of things and so on. So I think the general notion of preparedness for difficult situations is one that has become much more obvious to us, and so we are concentrating on that. And again, not that you can anticipate and be fully prepared for every situation, but the more you plan, the more you practice, and the more you think about unexpected situations, the more likely we are in dealing with those in an effective manner that keeps our citizens safe.
Yes.
Current feedback from victims reporting through this new system, if they find it more comfortable, compassionate, or non-objective as they wish?
Yes, I think looking over at Lucy, if I might call upon her, if that's okay.
Based on information from the department, that there is feedback, and it's positive, and the victims who have experienced assaults are very laudatory with respect to the University of Montana Police Department as well as the Missoula Police Department in the manner in which they are handled or treated, or not handled, that's not the right word, the way they engage with the law enforcement. So these changes are positive, these changes are real, and they do have a very positive impact on victims of very brutal crimes.
So you may want to pursue that in a little bit more detail with Lucy and Jessica afterwards, for example. I think they could give you maybe some more specific details there. We have been, one of the tools that we have been using is a campus climate survey, and that I think gets a little bit to what you're asking about, the awareness of people and the level of appreciation of victims who have been a part of the process.
Yeah.
I have another question, and this could be answered by both. And it involves basically rape and the ideas of rape that permeate our culture and our society and community. Basically, how can this training, or have you seen that this training is helping change those ideas within those rape myths? It just seems like a couple hours of training with leaders and students goes a certain length, but can it really change the hearts and minds of people that are not true?
I believe it absolutely can, and it absolutely does. While an individual student might be engaged in that particular training vehicle for, as you say, a couple of hours, I think that our students are now immersed in a conversation, surrounded by supporting people who are aware of this issue 24 hours a day. And so I do firmly believe that the culture is changing on our campus, in our communities, around our country on this topic. And the continual conversation, the concrete action steps that we've taken is what raises that awareness level. And I firmly believe that the culture is changing in that direction, and I ask John to maybe comment as well.
And I'm sorry, I'm not sure I heard the whole question, Kate.
Basically, it was just about rape myths in these trainings that...
Rape myths?
Rape myths.
Thank you, okay, yeah.
Can this training help sway and change these positive opinions?
I would largely echo Royce's comments, and I can tell you as a 50-year-old white male raised in Missoula, Montana, I understand more about sexual assault today than I did 2 years ago by a long shot, and I have a degree of responsibility around this topic, but really being immersed in the topic, understanding really what were our shortcomings in terms of dealing with it from a law enforcement and criminal justice standpoint, and our strengths as well, has really been eye-opening. And I'm actually having conversations with folks that I would never have had, and these are conversations with young people and conversations with my mother, who is 85 years old, about sexual assault and, you know, what was it like to be in nursing school in the early 1950s, right? I mean, it's a topic that we can discuss in a much different way, and I think it's bound to shape the future.
In Ms. Cook's remarks, she praised all the parties here for doing the difficult work together to create change. What's been difficult about this process? What's been difficult about creating the change that you're being praised for now?
Well, I'll start by saying, one is you have to own that you've made mistakes. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to read a report that suggests that there's been a pattern and practice of discrimination against a class of citizen in your community. It's very difficult to acknowledge that people have been injured on your watch, that you can do better and haven't, that you haven't had your eye on the ball, and that's just my part of it, that you don't have complete control over all of this, that there are moving parts, that personalities are at play, that you have to overcome jurisdictional boundaries, that you have to overcome some complex bureaucratic hurdles, that you have to manage hurt feelings in some cases and egos. All that's tough. I mean, there's a point at which you just have to sort of recognize that you got a problem, and that's tough. But once you get there, you start figuring out ways to fix it. And the really gratifying part of this, in addition to knowing that you're helping people, which is the only reason most of us are in this racket, is seeing the best parts of the people with whom we work manifest themselves through these efforts. When I see a guy like Mike Collier, who I didn't know particularly well, step up and manage this process and figure out ways to work with all sorts of people in new ways and do it really, really well, it's phenomenal. But it's tough. It's been tough. And you get, I mean, I don't read the comments online for all sorts of reasons, but I hear them, oddly enough, anyway, because people know I don't read them, so they tell me what they say. And they mostly tell me what they say about Royce. And some of it's not pretty, so that stuff is kind of tough, but we make our way through it.
I'll add a little bit. I think there are three things that make this difficult. One, as John said, recognizing that you have a problem. Two, how do you fix that problem? And that's where the Department of Justice, I will say, has been a big help to us. Through the conversations that we've had with them, we have identified and codified the particular steps, the specific steps that we need that represent the how to address the problem. And third is the asking of people to work day and night to make things happen. And again, there have been some assertions that people don't care enough about sexual assault in our community. Well, that can't be further from the truth. The hours of hard work and the hours of gut-wrenching, emotional energy that has gone into this on the part of so many people here have been absolutely astounding to me. And that asking people to do things that are going to require them to be here until 9 or 10 o'clock every night for a while, or require them to take their weekends, and require them to leave their families at home while they put in the extra time to address these issues. That's the hard part. It's also the rewarding part, because it shows us firsthand that people are as caring as can possibly be in our community. And that is a message, I guess, if nothing else comes through today, I want people to know that the individuals at this university and in this community care about our students and our citizens, and they care deeply about the